Welcome to the AVPN webinar on building resilient communities through sustainable agri-based livelihoods. My name is Kavita and I'm the Manager Knowledge and Member Engagement at the Asian Venture Philanthropy Network. AVPN is a unique funders network committed to building a high-impact philanthropy and social investment community across Asia. Currently, we have over 600 plus members across 29 countries, and we are very pleased to have two of our members based in India speaking today. Representing Axis Bank Foundation, we have Jacob Ninen, Executive Trustee and CEO. He will enlighten us on the key issues and emerging trends in sustainable livelihoods. Following that, we have Suman S., who is the Senior Manager, Rural Livelihoods at Dr. Reddy's Foundation. He will explain the use of agri-extension service delivery and the benefits of it. Before we proceed, a key housekeeping instruction. We will not take any questions during the presentation, but will open up the floor for Q&A after the speakers have presented. Please feel free to use the console to type in your questions while the speakers are presenting, and I will raise the questions to our speakers in the Q&A session. If you have further questions that are not answered by the end of the webinar, you can email us at india@avpn.asia. With great enthusiasm, I will now hand over the presentation to Jacob.
Greetings to all of you who are logged into this AVPN webinar. Axis Bank Foundation, of which I am a part of, was founded in 2006 to create a strategic intent to the philanthropic intentions of Axis Bank. Presently, the exclusive focus is on rural livelihoods, and we work in some of the remotest parts of India across the 23 states. In this webinar, it will be my intention to share some of our understanding in the area of rural livelihoods that we have gathered during our work in the last 12 years. India, as all of us know, is likely to be the leader in the global growth. There is no doubt about it. Experts project decades of high growth that will be supported by a relatively younger workforce, which will help us reap the benefits of the so-called demographic dividends. If we miss this opportunity, I think it will be a big loss for the country as a whole. As a nation, we have also aspirations for becoming a $5 trillion economy by 2024. In spite of the recent headwinds that we are facing, it still remains a very distinct possibility. But for these expectations to be met, it's important that we see a well-rounded progress, socially and economically, taking all sections of the society along. We all know that India is largely rural. There's no doubt about it. An estimated 65% of the population is rural. Even after accounting for a possible urban shift in the coming decades, as some experts feel, the rural character will definitely remain. It's also a fact that significant part of the deprivation and exclusion is seen in the rural communities. They cannot be left behind if the progress we aspire for has to become a reality. Agriculture, as we all know, is predominantly the large component of rural livelihoods. Setting it right is therefore important if the rural communities have to progress. As we as development sector, as we attempt to foster some of these transformation, it is important to understand the key issues involved. Is the action concerted enough? Are we doing the right thing? Are the communities sufficiently involved? Because communities, unless they are participative in this, I don't think we will reach anywhere. These are some of the questions one should be asking besides evaluating the work that we do, what did not work, what are the understanding on the emerging trends. In the coming slides, let me attempt to discuss some of these issues. Yeah, firstly, the agriculture. Agriculture in India is largely rain-fed. In certain areas that are very backward and remote, the dependency on rains is extremely high and in sometimes total. Water security, therefore, becomes the single largest issue in farm livelihoods. Looking at newer sources of water, the conservation of it, and also the right usage, water budgeting, etc., therefore becomes hugely important. Second, women of the community are playing a more decisive role, and this is something that needs to continue and increase further. Despite the best efforts, agriculture productivity will remain exposed to the vagaries of weather and also the markets. To mitigate this risk, it is important to have a baskets of livelihood approach where multiple streams of income are made available for the family. This could include livestock related activities like dairy, poultry, goat trading, etc., and also petty trade and other entrepreneurial activity. Farmer is unable to get the right price for the produce. That is the biggest challenge in India today, we all know. At times, the cost of production remains higher than the value realized. Multiple levels of intermediations eat into the margins. To quote an example, a good quality of custard apple fetches the farmer 10 rupees per kg at the farm gate. The consumer, like you and me, in the cities end up paying 150 to 200 rupees a kg for the same thing. Now, that is the extent of the value that is lost to the farmer. The extent of migration is often stressed upon, and it is high in many areas. Distress migration we have seen with a lot of pain in some of the areas that we work, and that definitely needs to reduce by creating employment opportunity to those migrating. The resultant sociological issues are very severe. Having said that, income from migration activities is an important source of household income for rural families. We need to be mindful of this fact. Customized solutions are the need of the hour. One size fits all strategy will not work. For instance, a type of rainwater harvesting structure in Bihar may not necessarily work in Tamil Nadu or Maharashtra. It's very important to leverage government schemes and funds to align to national priorities. Government is the biggest development agency, and there are enough and well-meaning functionaries at various levels who remain inclined to support. My request is to all of you, treat farming as a business and treat a farmer as a business person. Right type of capital at the right time at the right price is therefore hugely important. Therefore, linking farmer to formal credit from banks and microfinance institutions is critical. This will help them stay away from high-cost money lenders that they often are. All kinds of interventions will need to be created with well-defined sustainability framework. I shall talk about sustainability slightly detailed in the next slide. According to me, anything that is not measured and evidenced is equal to doing nothing. Therefore, clearly articulated outcome parameters that are measurable is necessary. Everything that is done should be put through the impact evaluations and assessments, not just to document, but to learn out of it and use that in the future. Now, let me talk about some of these aspects in slight detail, some of these aspects. Next slide, please. Yeah, next. I have chosen sustainability as the first thing to discuss because I believe that sustainability is the most important thing when we start the work. Well-defined parameters need to be built into the project design. At the conclusion of any project, the participating community should be in a position to manage their own affairs in the same way without any relapse. That, according to me, is a simple definition of sustainability. And to achieve that, we need to ensure the following, among other things. One, the community institutions, the self-help groups, the water users groups, the farmers clubs, village institutions, the community federations, producer organizations, etc. need to be nurtured well and strengthened with robust governance systems. Efforts and investments have to be directed at their capacity building and knowledge systems. Two, The producer organizations that I made a mention of will have to play a crucial role in aggregation of farm produce, leading to better realizations. Bulk procurement of input supplies like seeds and fertilizers they need to have a good business model in place. Next is sustainability, and exit from a project becomes easier if the farmer is linked to formal credit that will ensure the right amount of capital at the right cost. We talked about that earlier. Available government schemes, including the social welfare schemes, need to be linked to each of the households that one is working with. This could range from a NREGA funding to a micro irrigation scheme to welfare schemes like a widow pension, a disability pension. What all schemes are available, it need to be plugged into the families, because that is the money they can finally use for some of their livelihood activities as well. Can we go to the next slide? I am a firm believer in the power of value chains. It helps build a concerted action leading to aggregation and better and faster realization. Please change the slide. It helps the farmer to access new technology and services and adopt the right practices and knowledge systems. End-to-end planning enables building efficiencies and timely delivery. To illustrate an example, 25 farmers in a village could plant tomato farming in such a way that they depend on village SHGs to rear the right kind of saplings, create a common understanding on the right kind of package of practices, do the sowing in such a way that they are able to reach the marketplaces in batches, negotiate the best price from the trader, assuring him bulk quantities. This is possible only if you do it as a concerted action. That's what I meant by value chain. A small value addition can sometimes lead to a big uptick in value. For example, extracting fruit pulp instead of selling the whole fruit leads to 7 to 8 times higher value. The picture that you see in this slide in front of you is one such activity somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, where about 1,000 women are involved in the whole activity, plucking the non-timber forest produce custard apple from the forest, bringing it to their central processing plant, and now today they are supplying to the ice cream factories and the rest of the world. So that value addition, instead of 10 rupees per kg, they are able to realize 60 to 70 rupees per kg of the bulk fruit. So that is the extent of the uptick in terms of value addition. Value chains also offer opportunities to scale up fast and efficiently. Hence, adoption and is also applicable. Next one. Yeah, in this slide, we will talk about the role and importance of women in this journey. Farm production is a shared activity. You know what I mean. Both men and women of the house, and at times even children, are involved in the activity. Their roles and responsibilities are unwritten, but very well understood. They don't need an operating manual to do this. They have their wisdom to get this done seamlessly. In areas that we see men migrating for work, women are perhaps facing the brunt of it and executing all farm activities on their own. And therefore, it is important that women are capacitated to execute well with trainings and awareness workshops. Right empowerment of women can make the transformation faster. Besides, the community institutions and other collectives become stronger where women participation is high. I have seen and experienced the different way that the women uses money and deploys the surpluses, because she always brings in the long-term perspective. So therefore, women in this journey of farm livelihood is very important. Next slides, please. Next, some other issues that I want to discuss as a challenge and as a pointer are the rural youth. Today, not many youths are attracted to farming. It will take some effort to retain them there. Their aspirations are different. They also have keen desire to be in a jeans and be moving around. They are not in agriculture because they don't find it productive. So future approaches could include farm mechanizations, because besides making farming more productive. Alternate engagements to those not interested in farming will need to be looked into. We also need to be mindful of the impacts of climate change and the uncertainties and changing weather patterns. Responsible farming practice with utmost respect for environment is a must. Natural resource of any kind should be wisely used and not exploited. Now coming to some aspects around the funding. See, grant funding or donor money in India that is available today is generally available for the core objectives of the project. Donor money should also be made available for building because unless the institution access to formal credit remains a challenge in spite of all the efforts. Lending institutions continuously shy away because of their past painful experiences. So it will require some kind of extra human efforts to bring back formal credit in a good way. The farmer producer organization movement in India is yet to gather the right traction. Besides a viable business model, they also need better access to markets, finance, and also logistical facilities like warehousing, because if they need to preserve the product, farm produce, for some time till the right kind of market realizations are available, they need all these infrastructure. Lastly, no development process will be effective. The community participation and ownership is not total across all aspects, be it planning, piloting, and execution. So kindly bring them onto the center stage when we plan any activity. So here I conclude my presentation and welcome any kind of feedback or questions in the subsequent part of this webinar. Best wishes to all of you. Thank you so much.
So, greetings to everyone. I am Suman, representing Dr. Dees Foundation. And Dr. Dees Foundation is a 20 years of organization, which is working in the areas of skilling and agriculture, as well as persons with disability. And in agriculture, we have been working in the area of agriculture extension for about 11 years now. And about 1 lakh farmers we could reach out to across different states. And today I'm going to talk about how a farming community which is resilient can be actually developed through improved agriculture extension service delivery. So to start with, the members who are new to the word agriculture extension, it is nothing but an advisory service related to crops cycle, be it information, knowledge, or some kind of alerts like weather alerts, pest alerts, everything. So any advisory service comes under, any advisory as well as training comes under agri extension service delivery. Next slide. So this presentation, I'm going to talk about 4 parts. One is that how agriculture extension service delivery is linked to the sustainable agriculture development, be it economic sustainability, social sustainability, as well as environmental sustainability. And what is the current status of agriculture extension in the country, and what are the critical gaps. And third point, which I'm going to highlight, is about exploring different platforms which are already existing in Indian context in terms of service delivery of extension service, and how they are working in tandem with the government systems. And last, the part 4, which I'm going to talk about, is our own experience of agriculture extension service delivery with the help of a community platform called Farmers to Farmer Extension, and how is it helping the farmers to improve their income, at the same time drive the agriculture sustainable practices in their villages. Next slide. So when it comes to extension, agriculture extension plays an important role. And when it comes to sustainable rural livelihoods in India, we are largely talking about farm livelihood. When it comes to farm livelihood, it's all about sustainable agriculture development. And to achieve the sustainable agriculture development, we need farming community which is resilient and ready to take up any risk and able to bear that risk and overcome the risk. And when it comes to the resilient farming community, the first and the foremost thing is that the farmers need to be skilled and competent. And agriculture extension is the way to make farmers who are learned and skilled. And we as an organization from last 11 years, we see that in terms of effective agriculture extension delivery, though there are systems and delivery mechanisms, institutions available, the last mile delivery is a crucial role here. And there are two data points which I just wanted to highlight. One is that how extension can help the farmers to, how exactly this extension can help the farmers to overcome or improve the yield. At the same time, how it can help to reduce the poverty. Next slide, please. So status of agriculture, these are the data points which are very clear. To explain, but the important thing I want to highlight here is that agriculture extension has been driven by public extension, that means government, and largely it is considered as a pro-poor, pro-welfare measure, but not as a tool to achieve sustainable agriculture development. That's where this entire things becomes a issue or a concern for us. And when it comes to the agriculture extension, above the database, it is very clear, data points, it is very clear that the priority has not been given, it is under resourced. Hence, we need to bring back the kind of focus which we have to give to extension immediately. And largely, it is about last mile connect again. Next slide. So when I'm talking about agriculture extension and also the platforms, agriculture extension is largely driven by, in India, driven by the public extension system, which is government bodies like Kisan, KVKs, as well as agri universities, as well as the agriculture department. But however, there are other delivery platforms like input dealers, digital extension service, and also the agri clinics. At the same time, some of the NGOs also, development sector NGOs deliver the extension service. However, there are limitations in the current systems which are delivering the extension service to the farmers. And the other side, there is also limitations from the farmer side in terms of leveraging the extension service. So coming 2 slides, I'm going to talk about what are the limitations of the current or existing delivery channels in the agriculture extension in India. And the next slide, I'm going to talk about what are the limitations from the farmer side. So challenges with respect to different delivery channels when it comes to public extension, like issues like under resources, capacity, and accountability are the critical gaps. And with respect to private extension, which is largely driven by the input dealers, though it is operating at scale, it is actually lack of trust and profitability or a conflict of interest are the major challenges. When it comes to the digital extension, largely digital extension could not really make an impact at scale, especially for the small and marginal farmers, because of the fact that small and marginal farmers are not exposed, are not well versed with the digital tools. And of course, NGOs, they are, NGO being a platform, it is impactful. However, the limitation of a scale, or reaching out to the larger communities at scale, is a challenge. They are operating in small pockets and sporadically, and that's where the scale comes as a limitation for the NGOs. So there is a need for a last mile delivery of extension services, leveraging the existing platforms and also overcoming their limitations for us to address the need of the advisory services for the small and marginal farmers. Next slide, please. So when it comes to farmer side, the challenges is all about lack of poor exposure, lack of trust, and lack of confidence to reach out to the scientists or the agri universities for the advisory support. And the other, also most of the farmers are small and marginal farmers in nature in the country, so their lack of risk ability, taking the risk ability is poor because of their financial conditions. So overall, if we see it, that there is a gap in the lack of awareness of the farmers in ability to take the risk and also improve their awareness. So we need a scalable and sustainable platform which can help both the existing ecosystem or the delivery channels which are already working to reach out to the farmers, and also farmers, helping the farmers to avail the better services. So by doing this, what we see is that whatever the efforts taken by the ecosystem players, be it international organizations, be it government, be it NGOs, or be it private players who have a very effective or I mean helpful or a profit-making services for the farmers, can translate into real outcomes for the smaller marginal farmers. Next slide, please. So what is that solution which can help the existing systems to be more effective, at the same time can bring farmers ownership? As rightly mentioned by Jacob, involvement of the community, farming community, is the key for a solution. So we have tried to see what are the best solution we have in terms of service delivery to the extension, service delivery to the extension for the farmers. Then we found that farmer to farmer extension is the most preferred way of advisory services sought by the farmers. So though there are other community platforms, we have taken forward this farmer to farmer extension model in our last 3.5 years of work, reaching out to about 25,000 farmers across 7 states. And the coming slides would talk about our entire model. Next slides. So basically what Dr. Reddy's Foundation under the program name called Mitra does is the developing a farmer to farmer extension system at a village level, which can help leveraging the existing ecosystem players and also farmers to come together, and thereby they can adopt better practices. The farmers can adopt better practices and improve their income, as well as continue doing the sustainable agriculture practices. So the model is simple. The model is that identify right community volunteers or lead farmers from the village through a community participation and nomination, then build their capacities and then help them to do the demonstration at the village level, and then helping them with a lot of tools and support system, so that they can disseminate the same to the fellow farmers within the community and help them to adopt them. So thereby what happens is that whatever the ideal or the goal of improving the farmer income set up by the government of India or by all the ecosystem players can be achieved by making farmers in the center of the problem solving and helping the farmers to drive their own solution and making it more sustainable. So next slide, please. So how does it happen? So at a village level, if we talk about it, we actually identify such kind of progressive farmers or lead farmers who are willing to do this job through a community nomination. And after that, we actually help them to see what they have done in the past. Their past behavior is a better indicator of their future action. That's what we believe. And we give a task-based or activity-based selection we do, in which we give a task and ask them to complete it with the help of our local farmers, and mobilizing the farmers. And then based on the task performance, we have a one-to-one meeting, and we explain about what is the role they have to play and what is in it for them as a volunteer in it. So we explain, and based on the mutual consent, we send them for the capacity building program with the support of the local institutions. And then we help them to do the demonstrations within the village, so that there can be a live experience for the fellow farmers to see how this package of practices or the new technologies can be helpful in terms of reducing the cost or increasing the productivity for the farmer, or adopt better practices, or adopt better or improved practices in terms of saving the water, or using less fertilizer, less pesticides, and so on. So once this happens and the farmers are happy and the nominated farmer is happy, then we actually take them on board. Otherwise, we will again restart the entire process. So next slide. So the idea is that these lead farmers are able to, the entire crux lies in identifying such people and helping them in the entire journey till they take the lead and drive it. So the key USPs, what we see is that identifying the right technologies for the dissemination is also plays an important role when we are actually leveraging such kind of a platform. So any technology which is easy to implement and able to have some considerable benefit, that has to be decided based on the local condition. The kind of a impact or the benefit which is expected from Maharashtra farmers, and that too some regions, versus the outcomes or the yield or the benefit expected by the Bihar farmers are far different. So we need to identify right technologies based on the local condition and then help them. And most important thing, as I told you, that ease of implementation is a key for this. So once that is over, then identify the right lead farmers, and the crux lies is again in the community nomination. Now the community has to nominate such people, and then we have to provide right capacity building activity or support system. So in this, what happens is a farmer, if they have to learn something new, so what they need to do is that they need to learn something new when they are going to implement it in another 15-30 days of time. So that's how we divide the entire package of practices into capsules and try to deliver that. And once the capsules are delivered, they learn these new practices, we immediately help them to adopt it in their own field through the demonstrations. So once this is over, so there is a person has learned something new and also came and demonstrated it in the field. So we try to create a lot of identity for such people, so more number of farmers come and reach and approach this guy. What is the benefit he has received or she has received, and how is it going to help them. So once the farmer who's from the same community and speaks in the same language tells about that they have he or she got benefited, so there is a trust, and the acceptance of the farmer community would be far better. So that's how we see that lead farmer to fellow farmer dissemination can happen. In that also we try to help them with certain tools, IPC interpersonal communication tools, as well as some of the material, so that they can easily and with convenience they can actually disseminate these practices to the farming community. And apart from that one, we also help how can we institutionalize this structure at a village level, block level, and a district level, and also cross learning platform. So next slide. So though this farmer to farmer extension is not a new idea, but it has not been really a successful case at scale when it implemented at scale. So but what we have taken is that since the model itself is very I mean, in a way, useful model, and it has already been successful in small scale, so we have taken this up and we try to do certain kind of design changes, and then we have adopted it. And these are all the differentiators in terms of our program implementation. The farmers is not paid anything for delivering this service, because once we have a financial incentive, then wrong people might enter into this particular role and then may not deliver the desired outcome. So that's the reason we see that right people only come as volunteers for this. And of course, what is in it for them has to be really calibrated and delivered, so which we have done it. And unfortunately, this entire model we have implemented for about 3 years in 7 states across 550 villages, and the success rate is actually very positive. So next slide, please. So results are here. So I want to highlight only, I mean, there are a lot of points here you can go through in the slide. The first thing is that the lead farmer dropout rate is less than 10%. So in any farmer to farmer extension models earlier, whatever has been tried, the dropout rate was somewhere above 50%, whereas in this it's only less than 10%. Second thing is that this lead farmer platform can help the local stakeholders as well as the other stakeholders in the ecosystem and converge to make benefit to the fellow farmers. One use case I want to tell is that the agriculture startup, one of the agriculture startup which was working in the nano technology based fertilizer application. So we actually help them to leverage the lead farmer platform to reach the farmers through and adopting this technology. And farmers have received it because it has helped them in terms of ease of implementation and results were better than the conventional approach. So that way, this lead farm platform has created a strong base for all the ecosystem players, be it private players, be it government extension system, be it agriculture startups. So they reaching out to farmers, this has become a good platform to leverage. One more use case I just wanted to highlight here is that uh, uh, one of the locations where potato farming was happening in a very conventional way, we tried to bring the some of the chips variety potatoes in about 20,000 acres right now, and the benefits are visible. Farmers are adopting it at a higher rate, and so if we were not able to have this lead farm platform at our first instance there in that villages, probably this could not have been achieved. So when it comes to the results, yes, cost of cultivation and productivity or yield enhancement has been resulted, which helped us to increase the farmer's income about 10,000 rupees per acre in a year. And if the farmer is able to use to do 2 seasons in a year, then the benefit is actually manifold. Can you go to next slide? So this delivery model has been tested with about 25,000 farmers in 7 states, and both irrigated as well as rain fed. And we have had a diversified crops where cereal, cash crops, pulses, vegetables were there. And we have had local stakeholders, local ecosystem players coming and helping us out in terms of leveraging their strengths and bringing ownership. And we have helped agri startups and other players to come and actually introduce their products and services to the farmers, and they in turn get benefited from this. Next slide. So when it comes to the learnings from the platform, I think there is one more slide which is missing. Okay, go to next slide. Go to next slide. So the results from, I guess, out of 7 states, I want to highlight about 2 states where the results are remarkable. One is Bihar and another one is AP. In Bihar, we could have a 49% increase in the annual income. The denominator is average income of household at a state average. And so there is a 49% increase in the income for the farmers, and both in terms of cost of cultivation and yield enhancement. Here you can see on this slide. So we have worked on the wheat. The details are given here are wheat, maize, and paddy. And the key assumptions is that a farmer who has got a 2.5 or 5 acres of land, and if they are able to have 2 seasons and minimum irrigation is assured, so this is what is the result we could achieve from the model. And in AP, since farm mechanization has been adopted by the farmers well, so there is a further increase in terms of benefit. The cost of cultivation has been really remarkable. Thereby, we could actually have a 75% increase in the annual income of farmers. So next slide. So when it comes to the current progress, so whatever we have done in the 550 villages in 7 states, so we want to prove this model at scale, so that it can be really a model which can be replicated by the like-minded partners to improve the farmers' income, as well as disseminate the sustainable agriculture practices. Sorry, I missed one more point. When it comes to the sustainable agriculture practices, we have helped farmers to actually do a soil moisture retention practices. We have helped them to adopt the zero tillage. We have helped them to use the water through a crop water budgeting. So thereby there is an 8% decrease in the water usage by the farmers in our cluster areas. So the current progress is basically we are trying to prove this model at a district level in one of the underserved districts of Bihar, and our plan is that in coming 5 years of period we should at least influence about 1 million farmers through this farmer-to-farmer extension model, thereby improve their farmers' income as well as disseminate the sustainable agriculture practices to the small and marginal farmers. So in this entire journey, we work with the knowledge partners, we work with the other key players in the ecosystem to come together and to make a benefit to the farming community. Next slide. So when it comes to, as Mr. Jacob rightly mentioned, whatever we say, we should measure it and we should really evaluate it. So whatever the cluster level are for 7 states, whatever we have done, we have largely captured all the data at a very micro level and captured it. And for the kind of a district model, we are actually going with a evaluation model where it is both baseline and endline would happen, and even at a management level, the data which is process level data is going to capture, result monitoring will happen, process monitoring, beneficiary monitoring, and organization monitoring are the 4 key things in terms of key elements in terms of the framework of result monitoring for us. So next slide. Okay, thank you so much for patiently listening to me. Thank you so much.
We'll now take the questions from the audience. The first question is for you, Suman. How can we make agriculture extension models sensitive to climate change?
So as a right question, and as my example was given here, so we actually worked on this direction of how we can make more and more farmers adapt to the climate changes. And some examples are like crop water budgeting is one direction, one intervention in that direction, as well as minimizing the tillage is one direction, as well as soil moisture retention is one direction in one intervention in that direction. So it's of course it requires a holistic approach. If you talk about any, there's a lot of background noise. I'm not able to speak. Hello.
Please go ahead, Suman.
So I'm not able to. There is a lot of background noise which was coming. So, right. So can I go? Can I continue? Right. Okay. So when it comes to climate adaptation and climate mitigation, I see that our lead farmer platform plays a huge role in it. Until unless farmers takes the ownership of climate change, whatever the research or whatever the solutions we have are not going to be adapted at scale. So actually lead farmer platform in our own experience has been playing a crucial role in adapting certain kind of practices like zero crop water budgeting, soil moisture retention technique, as well as zero tillage. There are other technologies which we try to we have adapted and we have scaled up in our intervention areas.
This is a question for both of you. So, Jacob, you may start with the answer. Farm yield and soil health are declining. So, are there any interventions you have on the mentioned topics?
Yeah, this is a relevant subject according to me. The soil quality is eroding due to multiple reasons. Due to overexploitation, due to the wrong package of practices, including the use of chemical manure, and also the right cropping, which type of crops to adopt. Where a sugarcane is not possible, let's not plant sugarcane. So crop rotation is another thing that is important from a soil health perspective. So it's also my opinion that the farmer, I talked about farmer being a businessman. I think he or she understands this subject very well. It's only that, you know, as a mechanism, it needs to be slightly reinforced in them, and they will easily practice. These simple steps are enough according to me.
Right question for us, because when we started, we have faced a similar challenge. So our entire lead farmer platform, what we do is that we actually promote the entire demonstration through a soil health card base. So all the fertilizer management, everything happens from this soil health card results only. So thereby what happens is the usage of the fertilizers comes down, and that helps the farmers in both avoiding the soil degradation, at the same time also reducing the cost of cultivation. The same case with water, and with respect to the pest and disease management. So if the farmers knows what exactly the pest and what is that kind of correct dosage which they need to apply, so they'll be able to apply it. So for that, again, the advisory plays a crucial role, and that's where the lead farmer platform plays a important role.
The next question is for you, Jacob. Are there examples of villages where farmers came together and have phased their sowing and harvesting like suggested in your slide?
There are umpteen examples. There are examples where not only farmers from a village, a cluster of villages have gone into this practice. This is more relevant in vegetable farming, where a concerted approach yields very good results. So when we take up a cluster of villages, it is not possible that all the villages plant brinjal or all the villages plant tomatoes. There'll be glut in the market, and it will impact the realizations. So it is planned in such a way that after discussions with a trader, the sapling planning and all is affected in such a way that you have the right kind of batches and the right variety of vegetables. So this has been executed in many places in Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, and also Rajasthan.
The next question is for both the speakers. So maybe Suman, you can start by answering. Was
Right.
there any work done with middlemen or intermediaries in the value chain?
No, I mean, there was one attempt which we tried to do how exactly this middleman is going to pay to the farmers a better price, especially with respect to vegetable farming. And based on their inputs, what we worked actually downward. We worked on with the farmers on how can they segregate it, how can they better package it, and how can they actually build their credibility over a period of time with these people, so that they can offer better price to their farmers.
Jacob, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I have an example to quote. I talked about this custard apple example earlier. The traders, the women were cutting this huge basket of custard apple that they plucked from the forest and take it to the nearest main roads, where the trader comes and picks it up at 5 and 10 rupees per kg. So when all of them together confronted the trader and told that we are not going to sell this at this rate, the trader himself was convinced, and he directly contacted the main vendor, and the uptick in price was up to a level of 200%. So collective action from women has helped in getting better realization for their farm produce, because individually they would not have been able to deal with the trader. We are not against the trader. Trader has to be an essential part of this ecosystem. We are just talking about the margins being distributed equitably. So when a collective action is there, it helps very well.
Suman, so the next question is for you. What is the cost of reaching to
Right.
lead farmers for training and other agriculture extension?
So the cost of per farmer cost is close to, I mean, it depends on the scale. So if a cluster of 25 villages, the cost was coming to somewhere about 1,500 per farmer. And when it comes to the cost at a lead farmer level, it is close to, I think it is close to about 35,000 over a year. over a period of all the 3 years of period.
So this is a question for both the speakers. So Jacob, you can start by answering. Are there any successful models to effect behavioral change in farmers? For example, convincing them not to do paddy in Punjab.
Yeah, I do not have direct experience in Punjab, but a related experience I can quote because of the robust governance systems that are built in. Let me go down south to Madurai, where the project involves rejuvenation of the tanks that are already there. So there is this, they call it the Vailagams, the collective of the users of those tank. They have the systems in such a wonderful manner that they will, what amount of water each will use, it is well defined, and to what level they will use is also defined. In the summer months, they leave about 8 to 12 inches of water residual there, and even if they go thirsty, they will not use it because the livestock needs it. They realize that value very well, and they also have the governance in terms of which pond will be used for drinking water and which pond will be used for water for irrigation. So again, the behavioral and other things, there are multiple examples I can quote and explain it, but the moot point is that if the governance system is built in, they realize the value very easily and accordingly change their behavioral patterns.
So my answer is yes. That is, I mean, of course, we didn't work in Punjab, so I cannot really quote some example from Punjab, or from wherever we have worked in 7 states. So what I can tell is that whatever the dissemination package of practice, it's all about behavioral change for us. So, and a behavioral change, when we are expecting farmers to adopt, so they see what is in it for me in terms of my the benefit or the output or a profit. So if a fellow farmer from the same community says that yes, it is benefiting, so the farmers would adopt it. And apart from that one, we also need to do a kind of a nudging for the farmers so that they can see it as an evidence, and that's where this demonstrations plays an important role.
Also, the behavioral changes in terms of pesticide use, it has been achieved to a good extent in wherever these projects are, because once they understand the value of not using chemical pesticides, do their own way of organic farming, and understand the value, that it takes about 6 to 8 months that behavioral change happens. One crop cycle, and they understand the value, and it works well.
Suman, the next question is for you. Can you give examples of how
Right.
your project engages with the private sector?
As when I explained about this potato chips manufacturer, so what they were actually working on the contract farming of potato chips variety. So they actually reached out to us how exactly we can help, or how we can expand in this particular geography. So we have brought the lead farmer platform where all the lead farmers who are present in this private platform, the organization has come. So we have arranged a meeting. So there they explained about their product and how exactly they are assured of buying, the buyback is there, and what is the premium they are paying in terms of the price. So farmers have come forward, and they have adopted it. So this is one example I can quote. And apart from that one, some of the e-commerce startups who wanted to actually reach out to the farmers in terms of exploring how they can actually leverage the e-commerce platform in terms of buying the inputs, that also we try to help through our lead farm platform. And apart from that one of the micro irrigation organization which was actually struggling in terms of adoption of these products by the small and marginal farmers, we help them to reach out to the farmers through the lead farmer platform. These are the 3 examples I can immediately remember.
So in the interest of time, we are taking just the last question, and this is for both the speakers. So maybe Jacob, you can start by answering. How do we increase the risk-taking ability of farmers?
In my opinion, the farmer is already taking immense risk. He invests his money, borrowed or his money, in terms of input supply, seeds, fertilizer, his own labor, which we often do not value because the farmer tills the land continuously. He does not get any separate wages for that. So he invests his capital entirely. He is exposed to the multiple risks of weather, market prices, and other logistical things. He has to reach this to the mandi at the right time, in the right quantities. So according to me, in India, farmer is the biggest risk taker, and I would not advocate more risk, except in the area that he has to look out for newer opportunities, newer types of farming, newer understanding, exposure to what is happening in the outside world, and then take the risk. Otherwise, as a risk taker, I would place a farmer very high up.
My answer to is that I completely agree with whatever Jacob has mentioned. When it comes to farm, like the risk-taking ability of the farmers, they are actually taking a lot of risks by doing farming in the country. And apart from that one, there's a lot of noise, Kavita. Not able to
continue, Suman. We are hearing you.
Okay, okay. So the entire thing is about adopting new technologies, new practices is where farmers have to take kind of risk, and because other areas already is facing a lot of risk. So I see that only by exposure, by giving them right exposure as well as right inputs and training on a timely manner, can help them to believe and start trusting such trusting new technology or take that such kind of risk and then adopt them.
With this, we end our Q&A section. So thank you everyone for your participation in this interesting webinar. And thank you very much, Jacob and Suman, for the wonderful presentations and the question and answers. We will post the webinar recording on our website by next week. Please look out for it. The AVPN India Summit 2019 is being held on the 28th of November in Bangalore. We'll be covering many interesting discussions regarding social funding and investment in India. The summit is now sold out, but if you still want to attend it, you may write to us at india@avpn.asia and we'll put you on the wait list. Have a good day, everyone, and thank you.